Hello. Um, Weekly technicals. We didn't do it last week, but let's get into it now. I think cash has started to see a lot of what's the word? What is the word for this way? I don't know how to put it. Is that people have lost faith in cash essentially, and we said this is going to be coming. So we've seen a lot of bullish momentum in what we would say is risk-off assets like gold and commodities. BTC still seems to be the most performing. But do you want to start with the US dollar index first and see how that's going?
Yes, so just looking at the US dollar index, we've been mentioning this area of support on the monthly for quite some time now, and like we see, it has been holding, but obviously with the Black Swan event that we've just seen with SVB, we're now seeing quantitative easing come back in, but it's all a case of how long that's gonna occur. But if we just looking at the charts, like say we've had the monthly closure and we've not been able to break that structure point down into the weekly. So yeah, we're bearish. Yeah, we've not gone bearish, but we still it
Massive
all depends
rejection
on
at that
this.
105 level, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah, but obviously, like you say, it was the fundamentals, wasn't it? So it's we had this area here of consolidation on the daily, which got retested, and then we've seen that bullish move. But once again, we've just ripped back through that zone, and it's just depending on just seeing what this support does at this area.
Well, that was kind of brought on by the sort of 25 basis point increase, which I think personally, I think the Fed would have been better off just doing 50 basis points and being done with it and let the markets react.
Yeah, it's the bailouts in it. It's just that you say it's gonna happen, isn't it? We're gonna see the US dollar. We're gonna see it bounce at some point, but it's just when that happens. But yeah, I'm just going to gold.
So you expecting another retest of 101 there on the Dixie?
Yeah, I think we're gonna come down. If we look at that area, we've seen a lot of support, massive support. We've got this big wick here. We've got these two wicks here, and we've not yet touched that 101 area. So I see price coming down to at least touch that 101,
Yeah, it does look
600
like
around that area.
if we were to close below the 102 area, or yeah, below 102, we should see 101.
Because if we look at this channel as well, that price was respecting for quite some time. We actually didn't get a retest of that area on the weekly, so we got the potential to come. We got the retest on the daily. I don't know what you think. We could, if we do potentially break this area and price doesn't hold support, then we're coming down to retest this channel, aren't we?
Yeah, we will test this channel. But you can see like this was a huge breakout in terms of volume below this 101 level. There's very little demand, supply and demand zones from what we've seen from 2022 with an ag growth in the US dollar. So what I would expect is it would actually free fall down and we'd actually see all of everyone sort of abandon cash, move into other baskets of currencies, as well as sort of assets, stocks, gold, silver, commodities, Bitcoin, which we're already starting to see because that's just people losing faith, I think is the best way to put it. The banking system is under threat. And I think on the later call today, we'll go into a bit more, but in terms of like Western media has only really just officially announced that BRICS is doing this whole currency thing. Like we've been talking about BRICS having a reserve currency that's backed by rare earth minerals. But how long I think we've been talking about that for months now, but
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
Q3 of last year, maybe earlier.
good one now.
And now I think only in the last week, we're starting to see that in the news where you've got, have you seen the pictures? Well, I'll put it on the next call as well, but all of them
It's
holding hands.
it's happening fast as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
It's
happening very, very
faster than
fast.
anticipated. That
And I,
that thing is shared in the group, the belt. What is it, Belt and Road Initiative? Have you seen that?
yeah, this quote one's been going, and the US has really struggled to come up with an alternative to this. ESG was probably their closest now. And I think if I remember correctly, probably mid of 2022, they announced that they were going to create some form of model to rival Belt and Road Initiative. But the reality is Belt and Road's way too advanced now.
I think they invested I think $6 million into it, whereas the Chinese have put trillions,
Yeah,
at least a
trillions.
trillion or so.
They've really seen the long game now.
And they've been doing it behind closed doors. While America's been combating terrorism, China have been building this massive infrastructure, and it's like you say, we're against it now. Like,
yeah, it's now, this is really the pinnacle moment in just transitioning, and it's going to transition at a very quick rate. And I know Kofi's on as well. He likes Dalio, but yeah, I've watched Dalio's video probably 4 times in the last 2 weeks, because everything is just there right in front of you.
I still need to check that video out.
Yeah, like if you don't have time to read the book, like I've read the book a few times and I've enjoyed it, and that was before all of this disaster. That's among us. So be able to like look at this and say, this guy's actually predicted it, and he's come from experience where he was very publicly wrong when he effectively called this event decades ago, and I think it was in the 1980s.
That's mad, mate. And it's definitely cycles. Like, that's what I'm starting to realize now. It's having faith in your own ability and sort of predicting those cycles when they're occurring.
Yeah, exactly. And it only comes from sort of looking at history and analyzing it. And if you were to look back into like the 1980s, you had the Russia Cold War with the US, and a lot of the macro environment was very similar to what we're experiencing today. There was a fuck ton of proxy wars going on globally, and the currency was at risk. So there was another QE moment there. The markets were doing exactly as they're doing today. And like I think we've already referenced historical moments that almost mirror where we're at today as well. But I do think this was kind of especially the last 2 weeks have been a big turning point for the US economy with the bank failures. People are starting to remember 07, those that are old enough, not me or you, can remember the 1980s as well. So I think this is really, really maybe the high on the US dollar. If we don't hold this 101 level, it's a free fall. And you can see the free fall on if you go on, yeah, exactly that higher time frame there on the monthly time frame. Look at the growth you've seen in the US dollar since we see from March 2020 when we went to effectively 0 interest rates. This is a huge growth.
Oh, yeah.
So I think we'll face a little bit of resistance at, what is that level? Maybe 90, 92.
Yeah, 92. From this area.
Yeah, like that's really where you're facing the major resistance. There's probably a support around 95, 96.
Yeah, it's an area around here as well.
But that's what time frame is this? The monthly?
This is the monthly, yeah. So looking at, we've had a bit of resistance there, we've had support. You can say there was an area around there. The tight ranges on the Dixie, aren't they? But look at that clean move all the way up there. So we held resistance here, a lot of resistance, and then just absolutely.
But that's a huge amount of money printing that's occurred there.
That was COVID, wasn't it? Yeah.
So essentially, look, what could happen here? I don't see any other alternative right now than the US to print money. You've got to print money to either fill the FDIC insurance to infinity, and there's probably like a $2 trillion shortfall there, or you print money to pay off your deficit, and they're not, the deficit's too large to print money, so you get this, either way you're getting a double peak inflation.
It's got to happen, hasn't it? Something's got to give. Well, like I was reading about the GDP, obviously there's like 5 major indicators, isn't it? And then they've hit 4 of the indicators, but the last one is negative GDP for 2 consecutive quarters. And like with the military effort in Ukraine, they're avoiding hitting them negative GDP so they don't have to announce recession. which obviously keeps the American public uncertain about the recession. If they actually announce recession, then you get a massive backlash off that, don't you? So people actually stop going out and spending because they're listening to the news and it's official
Media.
that there's a recession. Yeah. So it is.
Which is
It's
why the
just
US was
fear
so, I
manipulation.
guess, imminent on changing the definition of a recession.
Yeah. It's all clear now, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
if they come out and announce a recession, then it is going to amplify what's going on.
But this is it, like, even if as soon as people start talking about it before the media is, everyone anticipates the inflation, so they start to increase their prices. And this is where it becomes this, like, I kind of empathize with the Fed to an extent, because one, they're managing the actual currency, but they've also got to manage the markets. And I said this on the last call, it's such a challenge because the markets are really what dictate the value. So if the bond traders, etc., make a move and make a decision, that's really what's going to dictate the value. So that's who he's trying to manage right now.
It is. It's sort of a broken system, and I mean, it's like when BRICS comes along, and then we've got more. It is sort of monopolized, isn't it? You know, with the Fed being like you say, they're trying to sort domestic monetary policies, but it affects the global market. It's a bit of a mad system.
It's funny, like, so Kobe's actually just said something here. It's a recession that identifies as a bull market. And for some reason, I remember watching a video a long time ago. Do you know that guy, Daniel Mack? The one who interviews guys and asks what they do for a living, and they're all driving supercars.
Oh yeah.
I don't know who it was that he'd asked, but the guy said something about that there's going to be a recession, but stocks are going to rally, everything's going to go up.
And he's
And I
we
don't know
go
who it
back and
was.
find that guy.
Yeah, I don't know who it was, and this was a few months ago that I saw that video. But that's even in line with what Dalio says, because it's in line with what the markets are saying. Like, do you want to go into forex? Maybe we look at US GDP.
US GBP USD.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Sure.
you've already
How do
seen
I get this thing off?
what?
How do I get this thing off my screen? The Zoom bar thing.
What Zoom bar? Oh,
Oh,
it's
it's
scrolling
like
at the
off my
top.
shit.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can
it's
just
like
move it
right across.
around.
Yeah, go on, that's nice. Yeah, so GU, we've seen on the monthly closure, we've broken this monthly structure, so we could see a lot of bullish momentum. We've got this red trend lines, the yearly trend line. So we got obviously with the weakness in the US dollar at the minute, we could see GU go bullish, and we, like I say, we've got that monthly structure is just being broken, and we closed above it. Go down.
You can see that it just ripped up, and this is really exactly in line when everyone's starting
Monday.
to lose faith.
Yeah,
Look
because
at
this that candle there is the opening, obviously the Monday open, and after SVB collapsed on the Friday, was it the 10th?
Yeah.
So that was just market open for the full week. We just absolutely ripped through.
But even look at the buy volume on the candle before it.
Yes, look at that massive
Huge amount of demand for a week.
Yeah, once we broke this weekly structure, obviously a lot of sellers come into the market, but we just see obviously that was before. Yeah. So we were obviously before SVB happened, we were bearish on GU. So once we got that structure break on the weekly, technical wise, that's a good area to look for sells.
See, I'm looking at
obviously
this
SVB
chart right
happened on the
now,
Friday.
and if we don't close that, go back, sorry, to the previous time frame of the weekly.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that head and shoulders pattern that could form there?
Yeah, we got that.
So yeah, you can see that big head and shoulders pattern on a weekly time frame.
Yeah, sure.
Oh wait, maybe it hasn't broken.
Yeah.
It broke the low, okay. Not a clean one, but it still could play out.
Yeah, it's just all dependent on US fundamentals though, isn't it?
Well, so look, April's just started. It's the second day into April, and that's a big start.
Yeah, so I'm not obviously with April being a financial year, trading April, are we gonna see some like strange moves? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you've got, obviously, we're moving now into Q2. So this is, I do expect that we'll, depending on what we see on the fundamental side, I don't know if we've got any major dates coming up this week, but we'll dive into that later. That will really determine if this pound holds these levels and the dollar holds its level.
Yeah, 'cause just obviously on the chat, I've just noticed this important monthly supply and demand area as well. What we've actually been, that's what leaving these wicks, and then obviously we've closed above that on the monthly. So yeah, I see you going bullish. Possible retest of 122. That's been a good area for support. You got support, resistance,
And if we
support.
break this, then 1.26 is on the cards on the monthly there.
Yeah, that's we could be in that. Could be in a bit of a range here between 1.26 and say around 1.2, 1.19. Yeah, but if we see this area break, I see, because we got these gaps up here towards 1.3. So if we do get that bullish move and we can break this structure at 1.26, we could potentially see a move up to 1.3, which makes sense because we've got that yearly trend line around there. So if we look at that area as that'll be our main target area if we started to break these highs over here. But obviously we'll just have to wait and see if that plays out.
And the dollar would be bleeding
Right.
at that level. And that would, for these levels to break, that would be the free fall that we were describing when we were looking at the Dixie chart. So from the
Yeah,
break
yeah.
of 101, this would be that free fall moment because that's a strong monthly structure point there that you've highlighted. So it would
Yeah,
take
like you
that
say,
free
that
fall
would.
moment.
Yeah, that makes sense. That yeah, that falls in line with that prediction there. But go down into the, so we got this weekly structure point looks like it needs a retest now. So we could see price open up just off this weekly candle here. We've got it's left a big wick at that monthly structure point. So obviously we got the monthly closure above the structure point and that area. But once again, we've got these big wicks. So we've got a lot of gaps down here. We could potentially see price come back and retest this weekly support, this weekly structure point at 1.2. Let's go down to the daily. See, on the daily, we've got nice clean structure.
Yeah.
But yeah, just going off that weekly, I think with that closure, with that wick, it's barely closed above, and it's not closed above this structure here or this important area up here. So I see price retracing back to either 1.21, so that potentially a daily structure point. Yeah, so we got this daily structure point here. This looks like a bit of a range here, so we could see a retest of 1.22 or potentially the higher to 1.2, which would be the weekly structure.
Yeah, like I'm looking at your daily chart there. It looks like more than like if we look back towards February where we were bouncing between the 1.23 and 1.24 level.
Yeah, 1.22.
Sorry, back there, same time frame, the daily,
Oh, sorry, on the daily.
and then February here, this point here.
So yeah, so once we broke through that area,
So we were bouncing
down
around
to
between 1.23 and 1.24. So I think unless we've got some major fundamental that would push us in either direction, I expect us to really consolidate between 1.23 and 1.24 until we get a fundamental play that will give us some point of
this range,
direction.
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Now that area consolidation on the daily.
Yeah, so this will be like a daily range that will more than likely play out for the next few days, unless there's a big fundamental that comes out. And it's the fundamental that really drives direction in these points of range.
Have we got major fundamentals this week?
I think we'll go into it afterwards on the euro, after euro and gold.
Yes. Okay, we're going to. Actually, I haven't got Euro done. On the trade, obviously GJ, GU, gold.
Euro's probably done the same. Let's go into gold. Euro's probably done the same as GDP.
Yeah. So once again, gold. We've seen
It's a beautiful candle.
this. Yeah, beautiful Mariposa, wasn't it almost? I think we had it Maribos on the weekly, was it? Yeah, on the weekly.
Yeah.
Beautiful candle. But like we've seen this these area of double tops. Obviously, we had this big move to the downside, which was mirrored to the upside. Nice clean move, but
Mhm.
we had this double top, which is now broken on on the monthly time frame. So nice clean break of that monthly structure. Clearly bullish now. We've also closed above that double top area. Nice candle, nice bullish candle. So we're bullish on the monthly. Once again on the weekly, very bullish on the weekly. We've seen this massive candle.
We've got bull flag forming there as well.
Yeah, we go down on the daily. Nice bull flag forming. This candle here, not a wick, no wick at all. Clean Mariposa candle was once again was the Monday market open after SVB collapse on the Friday. So we see obviously in times of we see a lot of money going to gold.
I think that just goes to
Especially
show how bad the week was for the dollar, that there was zero zero
Yeah,
uh
zero wicks, like
zero wick on
not a
this.
wick. I think there's a little tiny nipple on it. No, nothing.
No, not even that, nothing that. It's so clean.
Literally nothing, mate. Yeah,
It
it's
looks
just
fake.
market
It looks
open.
fake. I don't trust it. It's fake.
Clear manipulation.
One of those
Yeah,
copy candles.
I've never seen a weekly candle like that, man.
I think it's big. I think it's
unusual.
something to really pay attention to. The fact that there was really that much
Yeah,
demand on the
no,
weekly.
look at that.
Yeah, from start to finish. No gap as well, no price gap formed.
That's nearly 12, like 1,000 pips. The fuck? That's insane move, man. Right,
But
so if
like
we go down into the
it's fine, because when it was at the 1,650 level, we said that was such a major level, and that's when we were saying to buy and stock up on hard gold.
yeah,
And
it's
I didn't think I still don't think it will come down to touch those levels again. And I did say, I probably a little bit prematurely said when it was at that levels that it would be the last time to buy it under 2,000. But I think it was the last time to buy it at that key level of 1,650 for sure.
it is. It seems like a massive missed opportunity now, but
Yeah, because it's a complete
obviously,
outlier. If we look at this time frame on the monthly, that whole price action is an outlier of the range, because we pulled
yeah,
straight back into it after.
that big move down there.
Yeah, because if you were to
It
draw a
just broke.
horizontal, yeah, from there,
Yeah,
it's a complete
just broke.
outlier.
That's just a massive liquidity gap. Crazy move, but like you say, I don't see gold coming back down to those prices now. Like especially with what's going on in the world.
No, I don't either. I do think this is it now.
Say to clean, we got that weekly. Obviously the monthly structure point broken and closed above, and this previous structure point broken, closed above on the monthly. Go down into the weekly. We got nice clean weekly structure. We had that weekly structure point that price absolutely ripped through, but not only that, it's came back and it's retested it last week.
So we're expecting a
Sorry, the
big
week.
bullish movement next week from gold, by looks like the week after. So within the next 2 weeks, if we were to,
Yeah, so we look at this area here as if price can break this weekly structure, then yeah, we're off. I think we're off. Like obviously we got this big last time, this big wick here last time, but with what's going on and the structure that gold's given us, I think if this area holds the support and then this area breaks, we see a massive move on gold.
like gold's been teasing us with this $2,000 breakout. So,
Yeah, well, it's like you say, it's a massive area, the $2,000. So it's going to take a lot of buying pressure to get through it. But like you say, with what's going on in the macro environment, and fundamentals, and the US dollar, if Bitcoin weren't around, gold would have already ripped through, wouldn't it? But now we've got an alternative in Bitcoin and digital commodities that, we're gonna see a little bit more. We're gonna have to get a bit more buying pressure to rip through this 2,000 mark, but it's
there's
gonna
a
happen.
dilemma in my
It's
head. I guess one is that if you had this sort of BRICS reserve currency and it's all backed by gold and rare earth minerals, gold just it goes through the roof because of the demand is massive. But I guess where I'm a little bit confused is it would wipe out all of the paper gold in the market. So all of these markets that we're looking at now, so I guess this is where I'm very conflicted in my head, is that I don't know where price action would go. From a paper market point of view, it it would rally. But if all paper ends up becoming redundant because the paper doesn't represent where the gold actually is and who is in receipt of that gold, then the paper market's worthless.
Yeah, so it's a bit of an oddity. Yeah,
But this is where I
I get
guess
what
we
you're
move
saying.
into
Like, do
this
you mean
uncharted
like the
territory.
bonds? When you say the paper gold, do you mean like bonds and stuff backed by gold? Do you mean like
Like gold futures and
I get you, yeah.
like those
Yeah,
that are trading
so
these
like that, not
metals.
non-physical like non-physical ownership where we're trading the future price of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get
exactly. So I guess this is uncharted times right now. Like we don't know what news we're going to have to be paying attention to next year or in the 2 years from now.
that
Obviously,
it's
US monetary
roller coaster at the
policy,
minute.
yeah, US monetary policy dictates so much of what we do on and how we analyze the markets, that if you were to then introduce a multi-country currency, then and it's all backed by gold, it's difficult. Are you evaluating all of their monetary policy regimes?
Yes, like you say, European countries are starting to deal with it, like you say France and China, and so as soon as BRICS pops up, they're gonna get they're gonna get attention like off some of these European countries and that. Like it's they say with China, you can't really European countries can't trust China alone with the one, but the BRICS is it's more of an entity in it. It's not just China on its own.
Yeah, that's that decentralization. I think that alignment that you've got that allows it to be a little bit less risky, and then having a more diversified basket of goods that underpins the currency as a reserve.
Yeah, it's exciting times. I was just getting used to the learning to trade on the Dixie and all that, so I'm just gonna have to relearn everything.
Yeah,
Adapt and
it's
overcome.
a very challenging time to evaluate, but look, it's good for the monetary system as a whole. From a global financial system perspective, this is good.
Yeah, it's good for cryptocurrency as well, isn't it? It's just it's giving crypto it's giving BTC a moment to shine. So it's like people around the world are paying attention to BTC, like obviously governments and stuff, because it's performing. It's clear as day. You know what I mean. The markets are crashing. We've got macro bad, we've got wars going on around the world. We've got proxy wars and BTC is just performing.
But this is the thing, like if I'll pull up a BTC chart now, we'll go a little bit off gold and
Yeah, man.
codes.
Just obviously just before we go, obviously like you're saying there, we got that nice bullish flag on gold as well. I'm
Yeah,
very
so that
bullish on
looks like
gold
it's going to
at the
break
minute.
out within the next sort of few candles. As soon as that daily structure point breaks, and then you've got your weekly
Yeah,
there. So 1987 is the high.
1987 is the previous daily high. Yeah,
But to break out of this triangle, what are we looking at?
we're looking at we're
19.
looking around. It's the 2K mark. Yeah,
Yeah, it is. It's
we're
pretty
looking at around 1995. But you know, it's the 2K mark. If we want to have the higher probability trades, we're looking on breaking these wicks here as well, which it's around the 2K mark. So like you say,
And
if
if
we
we
break
break this,
2K, fine.
and if we break this
I don't think
2K
we're
level,
gonna
do
see
we
a
enter
retest.
price discovery?
Because the thing with gold now, still got these bits of structure here, but they're just massive wicks up and down. Because that's the thing with gold. When we do break these important areas, the amount of volatility that goes into it, sometimes we don't
Yeah.
see a retest on the smaller time frame. So if we go back to them big massive moves, I mean, we've seen retests here, but a lot of the time with gold, it just rockets done it when we break them important areas of value.
Yeah, you can see that it gets bought down straight away from the level from the last high.
Yeah, because it's like you say, we're going into price discovery, and obviously it rips through, and then people taking the profits up here, and it just pulls back.
But
But
if
yeah,
you go into
I
that
don't know.
uncharted territory, it does become an interesting story. And I think if you're just buying gold under that level, spot gold and physical gold would be key, because a break of 2K and a confirmation of a break of 2K,
I th I, th I
it
think a
really sets
break
a
of
whole.
2K. I think we see, you know what I mean, somewhere around that area. What's that? So obviously
In
we
line
got
with
that, we
that
got that
trend.
yearly trend line. Yeah, in line with that trend. So I'd say potential for,
See, I think it's going to be where you've got the intersection there that you've created. For some
yeah,
reason, I
the
see the
1
pattern and I'm like, oh yeah,
two
it'll be
point
nice if it does
two
that.
point three, yeah. So I mean, we got this. You say we got a lot of resistance here. We've got them big wicks. If we break that, we're gonna see a massive move. I think we can potentially. I don't know me, but obviously, like you say, it's price discovery. So who knows?
Yeah, it's hard to determine it, but like more than likely what will happen is it would respect quarter points. So if you were to establish and just a level of quarter points above 2000, I
Maybe
would be
two
very
one.
sure that it does, because that's what happened when the pound broke into price discovery on the downside against the US dollar. Was it just respected quarter points?
Yeah, they had no choice, didn't they?
Yeah, and I think
But
that's what will
if you look
happen
at
here.
yeah, because if you look at these wicks, they're not far off that 21. But obviously, these were just spikes from volatility. Once we broke that area, we have that volatility comes in, and it can't, it's not organic. It can't maintain that price action to the upside. But obviously, we've seen a different move here. We're starting to build structure here. We got a nice strong candle here, closing above here. Yeah, I see at least 2100. If we break this area, close above it, and find support, I see 2100 on the cards.
Time to go
That's
to
what
the
I'm
gold
going with.
shop.
You want to pull up a BTC?
Yeah, I'll pull up a BTC actually. Trading view.
Yeah, I'm definitely trading gold this week then.
Yeah, I think there's some huge volatility expected. So BTC managed to get its closure over 28K. And that's really respected this moment here. And one thing I wanted to say was that just looking at BTC performance, I almost think that BTC's performance might be completely, what's the word now I'm going to use? The monetary policy might not even have an effect on BTC's price action. So there's a lot of higher time frame charts that essentially just say that you've got a year's bear market followed by a 3-year bull market. And that's kind of been respected for the last 3 bull cycles. And it's now worked for exactly the same momentum. And the chart, what I'm really seeing is this. It looks, you've got a line like that, and that line is effectively mirrored across. This is what they're really drawing. Yeah. And it's a 1 year, it's on average, pretty much exactly 1 year. And you can see the same happening on the last one as well, where you had a less bull cycle.
Is that in line with the cycles of QE and QT and stuff?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, like, well, QE it's been in process since effectively 08. So prior to or in line with BTC's inception. So it's never experienced a QT market, but now you've got a QT market in the US.
And it's doing the same thing. It's doing the same
However,
cycle as it's always
China's
done.
in QE. So China's in QE and the second biggest economy. So this is where I said, like, the statements that have been ringing for a few months that the next bull market would be led by the East. I think it's because China and Japan are in QE.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's flipped from them first 2 trend line breaks were US QE, and
Yeah.
obviously and now we flip to see that trend line break.
Well,
Same
this is the
pattern on
halving
BTC.
cycles. So these are the last previous halving cycles.
So
And
what's
now
that? So there's that trend line isn't a half cycle though, is it the next one?
So this one here, no, so our next halving cycle is in 2024 here. And that's when we should really see our biggest momentum. Now, by March 2024, based on what the miners are anticipating, they expect fair value for Bitcoin by then to be $20,000 for them to effectively like jump on with the mining again at full capacity. So you're expecting a big rise up from here. And if we were to look at market structure on previous historical levels, we've actually got a lot more volume than previously, but it mirrors, I would say, our last bull cycle more.
So we could potentially though say, obviously if you look at them first 2 trend lines, we could copy and paste that to the right hand side of that
Yeah.
current price action, and we could look at this as obviously a first trend line break, sideways movement to a second trend line break during the May halving, and then we go. Do you think?
Yeah, so look, we had our low of 15.2K. We could probably do another retest of this level. If we go, let me pull up another chart. But I said, let me reset the price scale here. Put to a scale time frame. Yes. So we just like it's followed a very much gold-like structure if we look on the daily chart, which is nice. And this was triggered off this evening's down here at 19.9K, and it's really just been upwards momentum. It had this confirmation of the breakout at 26K, and I haven't really been wanting to make a decision on price action until 28K was broken. But because 28K, we had not just a weekly closure, but we've had a monthly closure now at the end of March above
50 MA as well.
Yep, a closure above the 50 MA. These have completed its downside. So I do actually believe that BTC may hit its next cycle now. Now, that's not to say that it won't be choppy. And we do have, I pointed it out to you earlier. Let me go to a CME chart. So we formed a CME gap around the 20 to 21K level, and today BTC is really acted like a magnet to these levels. So you can see we formed a CME gap back in January, Friday the 13th of January. Ooh, that was a bad luck day. So that's probably when I missed my entry as well. So Friday the 13th of January. It's big, yeah, it's huge.
Yeah,
It's a full.
What day was that?
It's
over that was my birthday. Came into it.
Yeah, that was a good range. But you can see like it then price action really pulled down. You can see the volume candle there to fill the gap, that red candle that we've got on the daily. And that happened on the towards the end of the week.
That was see, the Friday the 10th was the SVB, wasn't it? So that, like you say in there, that was
the
just
big
before
fundamental.
SVB.
Yeah, that was the big fundamental. And SVB, like that shocked the crypto market, was really because of it was a major on-ramp to many of the exchanges and off-ramp. As well as if you think about any sort of crypto projects that are holding accounts there. And now a lot of as part of the buyouts on those banks, the government is essentially saying that you can't provide any crypto services.
So like you're saying there, once a little tiny bit of negative news comes to crypto, that CME acted like an absolute magnet, didn't it?
Yeah.
You say, just, yeah.
And it generally has historically as well. I don't know if you can see any more on a daily time frame here.
Yeah, look at that one there.
So we've had several big ones, and it's just constantly come to fill them. And this is the level that I don't think we've yet filled at the 35K level. So we've got a CME gap at the 35K level. We've got a CME gap at the 20 up to 29K. So this gap still needs to be filled as well.
So that could be our range between 29 and what was
so we should
current price action now?
So we should be going to 30K. Look, now we've got a closure above 28K. It opens the doors to 30K. We should fill this magnet position. And if we manage to close above that level on above 30K on a weekly, then that sets the stage for filling the gap at 35K. But I do believe after that, we should see downside. Then it will be too much bullish momentum for there not to be.
You think a range between 35 and 29?
Yeah, and look, it took a full 2 or 3 years to hit the March 2020 gap that was formed.
I need to get a I need to start looking at this chart. Bitcoin CME futures. But this is where the gaps are, is it?
Yeah.
Mm.
So that was a January 2021 gap at 24K.
That's a
Yeah,
big
so
gap there.
yeah, February 2020. Yeah, that was the March. So this was the March Black Swan event. Now this gap that was formed at 8.9K, that still hasn't been filled. The only gap that we filled at these lower levels that were formed at the beginning of the new bull cycle post sort of during the lockdown process has been not even the 10K gaps. There's a huge gap there. Holy hell, up in there. That's a
So when you're talking about the price gaps to be filled, you're talking about actual CME gaps.
Yeah, I don't really pay
When we
attention.
talk about the lows, the Bitcoin, when we talk about the Bitcoin, the low, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not just that it's a gap, it also formed a resistance. It's just coincidental that there was some sort of demand zone there as well. But there's
Do
these,
you
as you
still
see,
see that on the cards?
if these levels, it's difficult to say. Look, we can't say for sure that every single CME gap will be filled, just like with normal price gaps. But historically, there's more of a percentage of it doing so.
Yeah, we could see a Black Swan event in 10 years' time. It fills that gap, wouldn't we?
Yeah,
Like,
but the
because
reality is that like we've got China in QE. Like to think that the whole world's economy isn't in a bit of a shit show right now. Like Evergrande's stock price fell. Well, it did fail. Did it fail last week or the week before?
yeah, I think it was last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it must have been last week.
I seen the message in the group. Like,
Yeah, so Evergrande failed last week. So China's not in the best position. They've got, I would say, a situation that mirrors Dubai in 07, where they'd sold a hell of a lot of off-plan property, and none of those projects have come to fruition or completed construction, and people are refusing to pay their mortgages on them because there's no delivery. So that's the situation there. So China's already in QE. The US has no real choice but to enter QE. The alternative, actually, I have been thinking is if they mandated an insurance, so with insurances, the premium would go down. So if you created a blanket insurance product for every single bank to underwrite it, you would help reduce the insurances. But if you went after, like, if banks individually got insurance, it would be very costly and expensive. But if there was a blanket insurance product, that might be a potential savior. That's how I guess I would look at it as a corporation. Whether the government listens is
yeah,
another
that's
one.
it. They're not doing the right moves at the minute. Like, see that House Speaker McCarthy
Oh gosh,
criticizing Biden. You
there's
see that?
definitely a big change in US government right now. The wokeism
Yeah,
seems to be getting pushed back
shaking to the
against.
core, mate. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's fucking.
yeah, there's definitely a big change going on. I did see Kofi's birthday was on Black Swan event, I'm guessing March.
That big gap. So if he'd have got himself some Bitcoin for his birthday, mate.
Oh, you lost out there, didn't you?
That your BTC gap strategy there. So how are you utilizing that then?
So yeah, that's why I'm thinking on the gap. So that those lower level gaps still haven't been filled. And it's possible that they could be filled, but looking at these kind of higher time frame movements of having you can see it there perfectly on the monthly, these 1 year bear markets followed by the bull cycle. So it does look like we're entering into a new cycle. And
For how long?
if you have the East and the West in QE and there's this much surplus capital in the market, it would all go into BTC.
Yeah, it's happening. Obviously with the Hong Kong and that allowing access to exchanges and stuff, you've got a lot more capital coming into the market. What's the market cap now on BTC?
So I think it did close above 1.2 trillion. Oh, so this is just the BTC market cap, and that's at just below 550 billion. And that's from a 1.2 trillion, $1.3 trillion high. So it's lost 50% of its market cap.
It's crazy that, mate. Like you say, but it was even now it's still at a massive discount.
Like if we take the crypto market cap as a whole, what's the ticker for this?
Too sure.
Let me check on a browser. Give me a second. It is oh, I think it's under total crypto market cap.
There's one's there, crypto total market cap right in front of
Am I blind?
total.
Here.
Yeah. Yeah. Crypto that's
Yeah, there you go. So it's above what, $1 trillion.
yes, it's broken back above a trillion.
But
So
one
is that
point,
trillion act would that act as a bit of a support, you think?
well, here's the thing: 1.2 trillion is a resistance level.
I just mean
So
with the trillion being such a round number, would you see that act as support now? Would we not be broken it?
yeah, look, it's broken out. It had a mild confirmation on the daily at that level of 1 trillion.
And the 50 MA as well. It's topped that nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's a cost as well after.
Yeah.
So it could single a new bull cycle for BTC, and we've had that on the higher time frames of Bitcoin as well. So
It's
that's
it's
also
all
why
adding up, innit?
yeah, like I do personally believe, like I guess my thesis behind BTC now could be that the lows may not be revisited. If they are revisited, it would be as probably the dirtiest wick you've ever seen in your life.
Like that wick the other day, bro, the BTC
Yeah,
USDC one. That's in that. How many people have got rich off that, do you think?
I think a lot more got liquidated.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I'm thinking in my head, there's got to be someone out there who just had like
One guy, it'll be
45,000.
like one guy who made it, and all of these were liquidated. One guy wiped out this many. But I think so that wick I think was in line with BTC. Sorry, not in line with BTC.
USDC.
In line with the US government selling off the Bitcoin. So did you see what I posted that all of the Bitcoin that was confiscated?
41,000. Yeah.
That's a lot.
41,000. It's because they could get round it, mate. Have you read that Andrew Bustamante podcast that I put in the group?
No, I haven't had.
Mate,
It's on my
go,
list to watch now.
mate. It's so relevant to the matter. Like he goes into everything we're speaking about, mate. But obviously he's a CIA agent, but
Oh,
like he talks like a financial guy. You know what I mean? But it's like he hits it right on the it's the nail on the head with everything he's saying, mate. But yeah, you need to check that out. It's so relevant, mate.
yeah, I'll take a look at that. But this is actually really like this 41,500 Bitcoin valuation at today's price of $1.18 billion. And they're going to be selling that off in 4 different batches this year. Now, just like, I don't know, like obviously this is confiscated in a crime, and with anything else that if the police confiscated drugs, they would burn the drugs.
Yeah, he goes into detail on it on the podcast, mate. He talks about exactly that. He talks about how it's not against American law. It's not corrupt because they've done it very cleverly. Do you know what I mean? So it's all above board. But like you say, isn't that a way for the US government going to announce and price in those? You know what I mean? Those sell-offs, or is it going to happen as and when they want? Are they going to use those 41,000 Bitcoin to manipulate the market as and when they want?
Well, that's exactly what they did. They liquidated loads of people.
So is that what you're saying? That come from that 41,000 Bitcoin that was that spike.
Yeah, look, if we go back here. This sell-off here we're talking about on the 22nd of March, where we had a price action movement from a 28.6K down to 26. So that's a full $2,000 off of the price. What did that go down to? You can see that's a 9% downward movement, 8% downward movement.
So was that in 4 hours candle as well? Yeah.
Yeah, but it didn't happen on a 4 hour. I don't know.
I was talking about the 1 minute candle.
Oh,
Remember the 1 minute BTC USDC when we had the USDC
oh
pegging?
yeah, that was it. Oh,
The
yeah, that
one
was
minute,
when it went up
yeah,
to
the 1 minute
58.
candle.
Didn't it go up to 58K or something?
I thought it was 50K. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I mean. In 1 minute candle, it went to 50 odd K. Like
yeah, something like that.
that's what I was talking about. Like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, that's what we're more than like. If we were to get any more downside movement, like it happened during the last bull cycle, there was something that happened where there was a huge wick that went down to about like 10K on a few exchanges.
Yeah, so your prediction is that if we do see that BTC gap, the CME gap being filled, it's going to be one of them wicks in it, just a little
Yeah.
sly wick that just rips through.
Yeah, and like there'll be some people that have just got mad like spot positions, spot orders that are there.
Yeah,
It'll just be
I'm
bought up by
gonna
folks. And I've got just some
look for a big
random.
order.
I've got random spot positions, spot orders that are placed, and if they go, they go. They don't. Okay,
You just
but
that like low down.
yeah, very low down at all of those weird key levels.
Yeah, just spot buys, so you've got no stop loss.
Yeah, they're just spot buys, no futures position. Because those, like at those levels, you want to accumulate as much as possible, and that's why I said like anything under 25K, I was accumulating.
That's what I mean. I don't focus on BTC just because obviously there's where, the volatility in the small cap coins and, like the newer projects and that I'm trying to treat it like pre-bull run. But obviously, like you're saying, just treat BTC like a savings account and just build, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, why wouldn't you? It's performing against every currency on the world, floated currency. It's outperforming. It's outperformed gold in this market as well. It's a savings account. Like this, that's why I say like if countries are trying to tax Bitcoin, then they don't understand Bitcoin. But I also believe that people don't understand Bitcoin.
Yeah, because when when it was Denmark, wasn't it? You said that.
Yeah, that was
Like,
last year.
like
Last
when,
week they said they were going to tax Bitcoin.
yeah, when they say they're going to tax Bitcoin, does that mean obviously if you withdraw it, they just capital gains tax it? Is that what they mean?
Yeah,
Like
because
and
they're
like you said,
treating it like a commodity.
yeah, I just seen that big move on Bitcoin there, man. The 1 minute candle. I just so I don't know what the fuck that was. Yeah. So obviously, like you're saying, nobody's gonna withdraw the BTC, are they? They're gonna move it into other things, and like you
No,
say, just
it's
hold.
just a,
And
yeah, it's just a store of value. It's bank. It's a bank.
yeah, the governments are paying attention, though, mate. Aren't they? They say for Denmark to come out and announce that they're all, and then they see the Bitcoin sign on the side of the European Central Bank, was it?
Yeah, or study
In Germany.
Bitcoin.
You study Bitcoin, mate. Yeah, like
Yeah.
that's like a message to the, you know what I mean? It's out there now, like, innit?
Is there? We're here.
I don't. I've always said the decade of mass adoption, but I don't even think a decade now.
No, I think like it's 2025 is really the key year. It coincides with just so many crucial dates.
And the halving and stuff. What have we got on that? Obviously the halving in May. What else?
So you got halving in 2024. There's something with the US deficit effectively becoming too big by 2025. There's also that every country would be CBDC by 2025.
You mean
They're just
the deficit with them raising the ceiling?
sorry.
Do you mean like the deficit will come too much in 25 because because they
Yeah,
keep raising the ceiling?
yeah. So their interest premiums on all of their debt would far exceed any of their income. It already does, which is why the deficit and one they don't pay down their deficit at all. But it's already way above. But it's going to come to the point where it's going to be too bad to deal with.
But this is the problem, though, mate. We all know, like, America's got a track record. If it does go down that route, mate, they will just go to war, and that's,
Well, this is the
do you
thing.
know what I mean?
You're playing with a beast right now. It's like if you were to back someone into a corner, they're going to come with all fists going because they've
Yeah,
got nothing to lose. And
and what a military power they are.
I think that's exactly it. I think now after China, they're the second biggest military power.
And like you say, back them into a corner, mate. They're about to lose the world dominance. It's the American war machine, but we're seeing it happen in Ukraine now. But have you seen like China have been the only ones to propose a peace talk in Ukraine that Ukraine and Russia have both sat down and
Yeah.
listened to? Whereas, so it's like it's an embarrassment for the West if China can resolve this conflict. It gives more faith to the BRICS. It gives more faith to China coming from Europe. So it's like at the minute, America are sort of bullying NATO, aren't they?
Well,
And like Europe,
it's a completely
sorry,
different dynamic, you know. Like if you look at what the US does when it goes and gets involved in a country, it effectively just leaves it obsolete. Whereas, like if you go into like the Donbass region of Ukraine and the regions taken by Russia, they've already started building schools, building hospitals, building infrastructure within that area.
yeah, yeah. So when the vote comes along, when China sorts the peace deal and the vote comes along, that they'll want to join Russia, won't they? Like you're saying that they're building infrastructure and that.
Exactly, and the money's there. That, like you'd have to be a fool now not to realize there's a transition. I think governments now are finally have their eyes open enough to see the huge transition that's happening, especially after the Russia Africa summit. And it's only going to get stronger. And it's crazy. Like you may have seen some of the posts that are on like the Mesh Instagram now, where you've got major leaders in like Kenya and Uganda now kind of saying like, we don't need America, we don't need the dollar. You're seeing huge Western disinformation campaigns against like the Ugandan president, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the US has said that LGBTQ plus Y whatever is part of US foreign policy, and that's the angle they're going after Uganda at, and that's what I mentioned in the Telegram as well. Like it's these are videos that are posted that they're from years ago, interviews, and they're now coming back up and they're trying to kind of stir up, effectively make it unstable. And that's all they do. Whereas you see what China's done, like Iran and Saudi brokering an agreement there, bringing alliances across the board. And that's obviously like a very big, prominent one, but there's so many smaller ones that they've done across Africa.
Yeah, they're buying it. It's like you say, it's for resources and minerals, isn't it? Like when
Yeah,
America left Afghanistan, they left all the lithium deposits and that. Me and China just came in and scooped them up. So like when the US left Afghanistan, China came in with the humanitarian aid and said, "Look, we'll
exactly.
help you in that." But obviously they just wanted the lithium mines.
Well,
With
they've
what
even done it with China, with India and Pakistan. Like they sponsored the Chinese Pakistan corridor. But then they've got this really strong relationship with India at the same time.
yeah, the built like you say, they're building up all these old alliances, all these old friendships, and then with this Belt and Road Initiative, they're already put themselves at the center of a global commerce. You know what I mean? Like they're right in the center, aren't they? They've been building 4-lane highways and skyscrapers and stuff in Africa. They're not just little villages, are they? They're 4-lane mega highways and that.
Well, this
They're not
this is the
messing
big
around.
thing here. Like if you like and I mentioned on the last call last week we did about this BRICS Bank being an alternative to the World Bank. Now the World Bank has kind of been, I would say, this big global infrastructure development bank with all of its subsidiaries underneath, like the IFC, the EBRD, the European Bank of Reconstruction Development, the IBRD, African Development, all of these banks, and they all kind of sit under this big World Bank umbrella. Now, the World Bank doesn't finance hospitals, it doesn't finance roads. So they'll only give like these grants or misallocate capital into investments that doesn't stimulate the economy enough, or they provide grants and the grants have loads of contingencies on it. Now, a lot of I guess the media was always pushing this, China does this with its debt, China does that, and they seize assets. But the reality is that the likes of the World Bank were doing exactly the same thing, but one, they weren't calling it debt, they were calling it a grant.
Yeah, they just worded it differently.
Yeah, but they were still expecting it to bend over, but they're not building the things that actually allow these countries to develop.
Yeah, it's like you say, they're not benefiting that country, are they? They're just creating debt and renaming it.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't make any sense. And now all of these kinds of ESG, carbon, carbon projects are just, I find even more ridiculous where, especially like I think I mentioned the nature swaps where you effectively take the bad debt of an emerging or a developing country, package it up as this kind of nature swap, and in return, this emerging country can't touch a portion of its green land, and they unlock carbon credits, which are this make believe credit, and then this nature swap will go to a fund like BlackRock, who will sell it off to investors and who can hold it as an ESG investment. So this is like the bullshit Ponzi-ness that exists, that you've just created something that is exactly, or if not mirrors, the 2007 junk bonds. It's just another junk bond.
But it's just moving the wealth all back to the top, innit?
Exactly.
Britain have just announced the net zero thing, haven't they? Like, they put more money towards EV charger points and solar and stuff like that. It's all it's the next big thing now, isn't it? But it's just a big money washing scheme.
Oh, it's huge. Like, the thing is, they're misselling it, and this is the problem. Like, obviously, I'm a solar guy or an energy guy, and never in my life would I sell solar or renewable energy to a country because it's reducing carbon footprint. Because the reality is, if you go into the manufacturer of all of the raw materials, the mining of the silica that goes into the solar panel, or the metal that goes into a wind turbine, you do a full life cycle analysis, you never pay off that carbon emission that you've generated. So the only reason I sell it is that you've got cheaper electricity and it's your own sovereignty. You're not relying on imported fuel products.
Like you say, maybe people don't understand, like the Tesla cars that they drive around in. You know, they think that these eco warriors, there's little kids climbing through mines in Africa trying to get that cobalt and nickel and stuff. And have you seen what they're trying to do now for trying to dredge the oceans for the bimetallic polynodules? I think they are. I think it's for the Tesla batteries. So there's like, they're looking on like dredging the oceans, and it leaves all scars on the bottom of the ocean, like they've been down. I think they dredged them, they first done in like the 80s, I think, like a French team, and he went back not so long ago with ROVs and to look at the bottom of the ocean, and the ocean just had these big scars on it, and like, you know, they just ripped through all life down there. But like you say, mate, it's not about saving the planet for them, is it? Like the likes of Elon Musk.
And like I was having this debate earlier in the week with someone, and like they've got all these carbon programs, and they think of all the impact it could do, but it actually falls back developing these countries, because you're not allowing them to develop the land, or which has a valuable resource within it. So they could actually capitalize on the actual what exists there, the resources, to develop and build revenue for their country. But you're locking them into these kind of bad debt bonds that they're more than likely going to revolt on.
100%, mate. It's like you say, it's all the third world countries and that, isn't it? They just create debt for them, and then, well, it's always happened, and it always will happen, won't it?
Yeah, but I think this is really like, this is a change now, and especially when you've got, like, I think it was the Kenyan president telling his population to not use to sell their dollars.
Yeah, that was a warning, that, mate, wasn't it?
That's huge.
What warned his people? Yeah, he warning his people to get. He was laughing as well, weren't he? It's like,
yeah,
it's like he knows something clearly.
Because they know what's coming. This transition is happening, and I was thinking this the other day, is that if I think back to, like, I always remember, like, when I was younger, growing up in like the 90s and like the early 2000s, China was looked at as this manufacturing place that just made cheap products, and it was really poor quality. And it's like they listened and they kind of addressed that, and they improved the quality, and they did all these changes. So those problems don't exist anymore. They became this huge manufacturing power hub. And another problem that China had was that they struggled to communicate outside of their borders. So what did? They developed English names that were familiar with Western cultures. And the way they do it is like they have a class in school where they pick their English name, and they study all of these iconic people within Western culture. And that's how they choose their English name, because it's something relevant to Western culture. They put millions into training language studies and sending their students abroad to study at international universities. And
That's fascinating.
yeah, like all of these things that they've done to address the major hurdles that they had to do cross-border transactions is actually the number one reason why the US is failing as a trading economy, because the US has no desire. Like the amount of times I try to do business with a US business and they have no desire or drive to do anything outside of their own borders. And to an extent,
Said it.
I understand it because their markets are big enough.
But
But
they expect everyone to come to them, don't they?
exactly, but that's the reality is that doesn't need to exist anymore. And
The
even like
Chinese
just the
take
laziness as well, the same exists in Europe. Like if as soon as it closes 5 p.m., they don't want to do any work anymore.
yeah, the Chinese take the constructive criticism very well, mate. They say they used to send students to learn American law, and then they'd come home, and then they'd operate. The Chinese companies would operate within US law, so that you know what I mean. It's all above board when they start, operating in the global market. Like very very clever nation.
Oh, super, super intelligent. And it's so all of the things that have made China great today is what has held back the US. And the whole US to business now, like I think in the last few months I've done a lot of business, or I've been involved with Americans in business, and they're very brute force with the way that they do business. It's not relationship driven, it's so transactional. It's very, I guess, I'm American, you must do this kind of situation.
Yeah, bow down, bow
Yeah,
down to the Yanks.
and it doesn't work
They
anymore.
say because obviously as well the bureaucracy. It's like a lot of red tape and stuff in the likes of US, whereas in China, apparently like any companies in China. So if you're like a digital, a fintech company in China, whatever, any developments that you come up with, it has to be shared with the Chinese government. So it's like they're just any innovations in China is straight to the government. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just got it all under lock and key, like.
Well, look, and that's kind of like, I guess, their way of state capitalism. If there's something that can do huge numbers in I guess, from strategic points of view as well, in international markets, they want to be part of it and they will drive that product. And that's why like TikTok's an overnight unicorn. And there's also an Indian version of TikTok as well, that was also another sort of overnight unicorn.
What's it called? TikTok, like? Or you mean it? Not the Indian version of TikTok. Or you mean like just an
the
Indian?
Indian, what's the Indian version of TikTok? But this is I've got another call later. I'll say it. But the Indian TikTok, what was it called? I think it was a
That
P.
TikTok, it's thingy, mate, and it's you say the algorithm in the West rewards these stupid dances and daft little videos. It rewards them. So our children, these future generations, are aspiring to do stupid dances in the street. You know what I mean? Whereas in China, the algorithm awards STEM. So like obviously science, technology, maths, engineering, stuff like that. It awards the algorithm rewards that. So a lot of these kids that aspire to become engineers, mathematicians, stuff like that, rather than it's clear ideological subversion from China to the West, but it just happens, doesn't it? Everyone just turns a blind eye. Yeah, it just happens. We all know, don't we? It's fucking. It got banned
Yeah.
in America, didn't it, at one point?
I think they're doing it now. They're trying to ban TikTok at the moment. This is the Indian
Huawei as
version.
well, isn't it?
This is
Chingari.
Chingari. It's the Indian TikTok. So TikTok's banned in India, and shortly after it was banned, this came out, and I believe it's linked to like one of I think someone famous in India, like one of their Bollywood stars. But like you can see the interface there. It's like a copy paste.
Yeah.
Like exactly the same. And like I guess like everything's now using this. If you look at YouTube Shorts, but they're even
What's the kind of following on that?
this
On
is
that
massive,
Chingari?
by the way, and this is a crypto project. So it's
Yeah,
fully
Crypto
this is
Ninja.
fully Web3, and they have over 150 million people.
On-chain users there, hold on.
This is
2.3
possibly
million
one
on-chain
of
users.
the biggest crypto projects out there.
That's massive, bro. 45 million plus monthly active users.
Crypto,
Is this all, I've never even heard of this. Is this in India only? Like, is this made it out of India yet?
they've done India, Indonesia, Turkey.
Oh, yeah, Turkey. Then.
Like, I didn't
Mad,
even
that,
know about
mate.
this project. I was introduced to this by one of my friends who's a developer, and I had no idea that, like, how far this had gone. And this is only, look, you can see they started in 2022 Q1.
It's massive, mate. It's brand new, isn't it? Brand new, and it's only branched out to 3 countries. Obviously, India's massive, so they've got a big following there. But they say how many other countries is TikTok banned in? Because that's straight away that's a market for them.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and this is where, but this is it's an Indian sponsored spy tool, like TikTok is for China.
Yeah, yeah. I know, mate. It's mad that. I've never even heard of it.
But we're foolish to think that any of these platforms aren't state sponsored, by the way. Like anything that is controlling this much population data, Facebook, Instagram, etc., they're all state capital business. Just look at their shareholdings. It's Vanguard, it's BlackRock. The same two names keep appearing. These are managing trillions of dollars of government capital.
What was that thing that you shared, that document saying about the social media using it as like sort of weaponized? You know what I mean? It was you shared something on that, didn't you?
Did I? Maybe.
Yeah, it was like an official declassified document of how to use social media
Oh,
to,
yeah, I did send that.
you know what I mean, to manipulate the population. Send that much stuff on there now.
But this is what's going on.
That's interesting stuff, man. Interesting time to be alive. Interesting time to be getting into all of this game, mate. It's baptism of fire.
I honestly believe we'll have two interfaces to our lives. We'll have the sort of private life that we create within the crypto sphere, and then we'll have this government interface where we have to use a government CBDC, and if
The
we want to
digital
work with the government
presence.
services, then we have to have this biometric ID service.
They say
Wow.
that Bustamante talks about like this social pyramid and like the way when you start off, you're an individual, and it's like you've got individual rights, and if you need to build a house, a hut, you build a hut. If you need food, you go and get food, and then it's like you go up to the next level on the pyramid, becomes tribal, which
Yep.
is like, you know, you share food. And I pick berries, you kill a wolf or whatever, and we can both share. But if I want to punch you in the face, I can still punch you in the face because we're a tribe. But then when you go up the ladder again, that's the way he explains it. But like when you get up to the ladder to where we are now, it's like you no longer exist as an individual, so you've given up those individual rights, and it's a scary concept. You know what I mean? It's like you can't exist in a society like we do and turn around and say, no, I want all my individual freedoms. I want all my, you know what I mean? Because
Yep.
we're at a level on the social pyramid where we don't no longer have them, and it's scary. It's a scary thought. You know what I mean? It's like it's right in a sense, but it's wrong in a sense. But it's like, you know, they're just capitalizing on that. Like they've been collecting our data for a long time now, haven't they? But it's got to a point now where they can do it in such an efficient way, in such a precise way. It's scary, like.
Oh yeah, and they can define who we are and change who we become. That's the level of data that's out there now, and just the level of research that's gone into psychological psyops.
Yeah, fucking hell. I've seen that with a lot of declassified things over the years, haven't we, from the CIA and that. Fucking MK Ultras and stuff like that.
Like if you look at Manson and you look at obviously MK Ultra, like what the work that was done in the 70s and 80s is what is in play now. That's the way I like to look at it.
Yeah, it was the inception was a long time ago, but they've been using it, they've been experimenting with it, and they've been refining it over the years, haven't they, obviously, to the point where, you know, if you let that Yuri Belanov, or what's his name? I can't remember. I always forget, mate. But he says ideological subversion. It takes 2 decades, so it takes over the
The
20-year period.
KGB director, yeah.
Yeah. So if you look back to 20 years ago from now, we're talking the millennium. We're talking, you know, the real big move, and like MySpace and all. You know,
Yeah.
we're talking that's when internet really kicked off, and here we are 20 years later, and lo and behold, look, like you say there, mate, all these things have been used, they've all been refined, and they've been experimented with over the years on smaller populace. But now, with today's advancements, they can fuck around with massive amounts of people, and we see that through like the likes of COVID, and other social media experiments and that, mate. It's
Yeah,
scary
everyone's
times.
gonna face consequences for any of it.
Yeah, it's just it all happens in this digital sphere that like no one gets held accountable for. But like you say, mate, I think we're going into scary times. The more I hang around with you, mate, doing these calls and that, the more doom and gloom I get.
I don't want to be the cause
Nah,
of your depression, so
nah, bro. It's just waking up to it, like you say, mate, the machine and how it works. It's just fucking the amount of corruption and stuff, and it's just
yeah, and it's just how the
a
economy
mad thing.
works.
Yeah, I'm waking up to it, but I'm fucking hell, mate. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's like you say, what a time to be alive and what a game to be in. We're
Oh,
talking
yeah,
like
it's
a once
finally
in a
got
100 year
exciting.
cycle.
Finally
Yeah,
got
but
exciting. Anyways, I need to go. I got another call
yeah,
coming up in half an hour. It was good talking, bro.
please. Nice one, Alan. Take care, mate.
Whatever.
See you later, bro.